Well, hi, this is Fake Zappa with yet another way that we can keep America fake. And if you happen to tune in to a podcast that was done last summer of 2020, now mind you, out of all the advertising campaigns I did for my fake presidency, I didn't get one interview in the United States of America. So in case you're wondering, this was an Australian podcaster who thought that no matter how edgy my stuff was, it wasn't too offensive for his show. And I was recently told, after I posted a video about 6 weeks ago or so, I was advised not to do the Klansman uniform. Well, I will tell you, though, that this thing here that I ordered is actually a wizard costume. Because you just can't go on Amazon.com and order a KKK Klansman costume. Although, I hope people realize that it's just a costume. In fact, there's a guy, Daryl Davis, who was the guy that was befriending all those members of the KKK for 30, 40 years or so. So, I'm quoting a black guy here. He says, "That's what we see. We need to overcome. This is nothing but a piece of material. Yes, it invokes fear because we allow ourselves to be afraid because this piece of material and all this stuff." And the guy that was interviewing him, ironically, on public television, a guy named Hari Strenevisen, I don't know, something like that. Another brownish person here was saying, hey, it's going to trigger and give them a sense of fear or sadness or hatred, which, yes, it can do that. Which is why, speaking of Amazon.com, that's why I bought the racist flag, also known as the rebel flag, according to how you interpret it. And if there's one thing I hate more than racism, well, maybe not as much, but it's about equal. I hate censorship. And I think it's really weird having grown up in the 80s when Frank Zappa was fighting the right wing, mostly right wing people when it came to censorship of rock and roll music. And he didn't necessarily win, but it didn't really get much worse than it did. And I don't think he would have really ever predicted that progressive left-wing folks, especially big technology, big media, would be censoring the right-wing folks here in America, and there's even some stuff going on in Europe as well. And so this stuff with the KKK goes back to almost a year ago, and I was living in New Mexico at the time. And I was talking to a brother who was like, in fact, I think they were the only black family within like an hour drive from this place. It was out the middle of nowhere. So, of course, we got to talking about this stuff. So he was telling me, he's like, yeah, there was this black guy who was a musician. He was playing in a bar, and this guy comes up to him, I like your music. And he was a KKK, and I thought that was an urban legend. And so I was doing a little research today, and I thought, oh, they even made a movie about this, like 5 years ago and stuff like that. So I guess it's true, and that's really cool. Now, something else I learned was just after I did that podcast in Australia. That was the first time publicly that I admitted that I'm going to do this thing called the new and improved KKK, which is based on white guilt, not white power, because, as offensive white power is, we don't realize how offensive white guilt is to a lot of people of color, and how it's like we're just trying to get white people to feel good about ourselves so we can sleep at night, so we can continue feeling superior, not over different races of people, but just different classes of people. And the reason why so many Caucasian people are getting on board with a lot of anti-racist stuff makes me wonder why they still have a lot of superiority when it comes to educational class and when it comes to social class and things like that. So I thought it would be really funny to do something where I would create my own version of the Ku Klux Klan that was run by minorities, liberals, and the more privileged you are, the less important you were in this particular branch of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, something else that happened soon after I did that interview from this young man in Australia about keeping America fake and some of my deplorable ideas that I have about this, I went to Mount Rushmore and took some selfies and some other stuff like that. Of course, I took out the biggest weapon that I have, which is my sidewalk chalk. And I'm sitting there around Mount Rushmore, and it's hot. And I had my sidewalk chalk handy and my camera and my smarty phone. And I started doing some googly stuff about this guy. And I kid you not, his name is Boar Glum. I mean, what a sad name is that? I mean, is he a boar? Is he just a glum? He's Gutson Borglum. He's the guy that was attributed as being the artist who was in charge of carving those faces in this very sacred place. Well, sacred to some other people, I guess. And it turns out, ironically, as I was watching this very outdated movie for tourists there at Mount Rushmore, wearing my COVID mask and wondering what some more of that history might be, I found out that, in fact, the Smithsonian Magazine itself has an article, This Sordid History of Mount Rushmore, of Borglum's decision to work with the Klan, even back when he was on the East Coast and stuff like that. And that's just a part of history that you won't learn from the tour guides at Mount Rushmore. So when I found that out, I decided it would be really fun to do a little drawing over by the Borglum statue. Well, it was a bust. It was just like his head. It was like a bronze head on this podium. And under this podium was bricks. And on these bricks, I decided to write with a big heart around it, Borglum loves the KKK. And then I decided to sit several feet so I could watch it and to see what would happen. Well, the first people that came read that, and they got mad. And I think those were even the people that started, like, literally erasing the sidewalk chalk with their feet, and just like, well, that's just wrong. It was almost like I was defacing. Well, I was vandalizing a federal monument with something that was going to wash away in the next rainstorm. And there were security guards everywhere, and luckily none of them saw the deplorable acts, these un-American acts that I was doing. However, it continued to get me to think about what are the most hated people today. And now the KKK is in the news again today. Now, mind you, I had ordered this thing like in April or something. And so what I did on Amazon.com was looked up, KKK uniform. Of course, they wouldn't have anything like that, or costume. So this is actually a wizard costume, and I did this in a music video that I posted. Actually, what I call this, because, it's supposed to have holes in there, and I don't have eye holes, because it really is just a hood, and it's not like the super pointy hood like it's supposed to be. But anyways, because there's no eye holes in it, I can't see. So I call it my not see uniform. So I'm kind of like this not see. Like when I have the blast shield down, I have to use the force. I not see. So anyways, I'm going to transform myself into a shocking figure. And seriously, if there's any people of color that have a problem with this, I want to know about it. Otherwise, the only people that get offended when I do this stuff are white people, and that's a really good indicator that you might be suffering with something called white guilt. If something like this offends you, whether I'm a white supremacist or not, I mean, all you got to do is ask me, are you a white supremacist? Well, I do believe, and I'll get to this sometime, and this is really something that, you know, if you've already made up your mind just because of what you see, you're definitely going to have a hard time with my little discourse that I'm calling, Is There a Master Race? And are white people just a bunch of hairy, pale freaks? Or are we really destined to rule this world? And if so, are we doing a very good job at it? And so I also have some other things here that I wanted to talk about. And even sing about, maybe. But before I'll do that, I'll tell you a little story that happened to me today as I'm preparing for this video. And I decided, well, let me just search the web for any kind of KKK related stuff in the news and all this kind of stuff. And so I even went to KKK.org, and that's gone. Actually, it turns out somebody hacked into that here a few years ago and messed it all up. Darn! And then I had to get off of a Google browser. I had to get off of a Google search engine, and I had to get on some other stupid thing, I think in Russia or something, in order to actually find what these people are doing, because they still have different versions of the KKK. And look at this. They got their website. They've got a hotline. They even have a printable application where you can send them your info and all this kind of stuff, and a check, and I think a copy of your driver's license, which would be really cool, because, I mean, it's like people seem to work really hard to find a reason to hate me. It's like they're just like, I want to hate this guy. I want to hate this guy. He's so annoying, and he's got so much self-importance. And nobody seems to like him. Nobody seems to listen to him. So I wish there was a way that I could just suddenly hate fake Zappa. And so now I'm giving people a great reason to, just for dressing up in a costume and talking about subjects and things they don't want to talk about. I get a lot of shit talking to men who suffer mentally and emotionally, whether in severe cases like me or acute cases like a lot of men, especially these days. If I just talk about self-care, just talking about it, not preaching at them or anything and saying I'm any better than they are when it comes to this stuff, it's just bringing up the subject, or just saying, you know, one of the things I've noticed, especially with my relationships with men, is really just a lack of self-care when it comes to their mental health. And I might as well dress up in a Klansman uniform and start saying white power, because, I mean, it's like there are certain subjects that people have such an aversion towards. Now, mind you, I love mental health self-care, and I don't like racism. And the people that I've had the most problems with in traveling through, like 24 states here in the last couple years, and staying in all these places, especially in the deep South. I mean, it's old white men that are running this country and running just about everything I see, or at least they have at least two of those characteristics. And those are the people who make things very difficult for me, or trigger me, or whatever, and stuff like that. So this is a really big issue when we're talking about old white men, and we're talking about insanity and delusion and crazy stuff that's going on. And so what's really weird is how hard it was for me to find this thing. And I had to go through I didn't have to go through the fucking dark web, but, I'm sure there's, more stuff on there than here and stuff like that. So anyways, here's the home page. And there's like Klan women. There's this whole thing. And there's actually a lot of female presence when it comes to Klans, quote, men, end quote. And they're making it very female friendly. which I think. It's not very gay friendly, go figure. Although, are there such things as gay white supremacists? Yes, yes, there are, and I've met a handful of them. Anyways, you can go to the radio show. Here's another phone number you can dial in and call. And then, of course, you've got like a lot. This is just their homepage. I mean, look at all this stuff here about white power and white supremacy and so-called research and say no to race mixing, like interracial couples, like, yeah, because after all, this is 1960, isn't it? So anyways, yes, the KKK is still alive and well. And the thing is, and this is one of the things that Daryl Davis was talking about, that, when we attack people, it empowers them. And so here's this big old chocolate bear. I mean, he is so yummy, this Daryl Davis guy. And he's just this total wonderful, huggable blues pianist who looks like a corn-fed version of Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he's just like, how do you not love this guy? And so he comes up to white supremacists and makes friends with them and all this wonderful stuff. And so he's talking about how folks, they're just trying so hard to fight hatred. And I know, because I left Portland, Oregon, because of their methods of fighting hatred. And I thought it was really spooky that I decided to just dress like a hillbilly, not even... I didn't go around saying, I voted for Trump and I support Trump. And, I wasn't lying to people. I was just sort of like changing a little bit of my look and changing a little bit of sort of the slant on how I said things. Like, instead of saying, the evil orange menace, yeah, I would say, oh, look at President Trump on TV. Isn't he a trep? And they would just be like, he's not my president. Blah, blah. I mean, the hostility was aimed at me just because I didn't hate him as much as they did. And I started making friends with Trumpies, and I had a relationship with a Trumpie for quite a while. And I was supportive of him. I didn't let him put his Trump flags around our trailer and our house and stuff like that, because it was in my name, and I just, but here's the thing, is that although I didn't want to enable their views, I didn't want to fight them either, because that really, really empowers them. And so what I see, for instance, with large tech companies and online stuff and all that, is they're really, really working hard to undermine democracy in the name of fighting hatred. And of course, if we didn't spook them with 8 years of a president whose middle name was Hussein, we are really fucking spooking them now when it comes to, how difficult it is just to find their website. And it's and it's funny. And it's a WordPress site. So apparently WordPress isn't censoring them. One of the things I thought was funny is that, okay, so here it is. Copyright, Loyal White Knights of the KKK website. Hospital WordPress template. Oh, they use the hospital template. Nice. Oh, I know it, because it had so much red, white, and blue on it. And so, anyways, yay, if you're ever having trouble going to the source and finding out what they're saying, here's the thing, is that if you are a granola crunching, tree hugging liberal like me, and if that's all you hear about the right wing and those who oppose your views, if that's all you're hearing from is from the most of the mainstream media channels, CBS, especially, man, I've been watching, what's this, MSNBC. Whoa, I mean, like, you talk about a slant there. Especially, it's like, lately, it's like this big constant sales pitch for vaccines and stuff. I mean, that really spooks the right wing a lot. But here's the thing, is that if that's all I'm getting, if that's the only source that I'm getting, is Al Jazeera, Democracy Now!, Amanpour and Company, and you name it, of my favorite left-wing liberal news people, then I'm really not getting both perspectives. And for all I know, they could be taking stuff out of context. So that's why I hang around a lot of Trump supporters and talk to them and find out what their sources are, why they believe it, and stuff like that. So anyways, if you go to fakezappa.com/blog, you'll see Keeping America Fake, and you will see my stuff about President Taft and President Trump and my presidency, my inauguration, and even, let's see, what is it called? Not my eviction. The impeachment. Even my impeachment. Which is so fun.